Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having a beautiful day and welcome to the Polyhedra Show. So today we've got a really cool community show format. We've had so many questions from the community and we love all of the engagement. So we decided to do a format specifically for this. We're going to be diving into some of the most exciting and impactful developments in technology and happening in our industry. So this is going to be really fun. We've got a whole lot of fantastic questions from the community, ranging from everything, AI agents, quantum computing, obviously the Stargate project, and of course EXP Chain's latest updates and Polyhedra's latest updates. And joining me today, not only one of my favorite colleagues, one of my favorite people, Morgan. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Anthony. Yeah, today is all about connecting the dots, how cutting-edge advancements in AI, quantum computing, and blockchain are reshaping industries and creating new opportunities. Let's jump in.
Brilliant. So yeah, I'd like to kick things off, as I just mentioned, talking about the Stargate project. So this is massive, and we were just talking offline about this, Morgan, but it's a $500 billion initiative launched by the US government. They've done this in partnership with OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank. They're aiming to create ethical, scalable, and secure AI infrastructure that prioritizes data sovereignty and trust.
That's right, Anthony. The Stargate project is a clear signal of the growing global focus on ethical AI. By building trust-first systems, it aligns perfectly with what we're doing at Polyhedra, particularly with ZKML and decentralized trust frameworks. Yeah, a $500 billion initiative like this is pretty impressive.
It's massive. And like we were just saying, we're looking at some numbers here because this is like by far the biggest investment, a technological investment in history. We're just running through it just to give you guys an idea. So the Apollo program, like the whole Apollo program, in the 60s was $28 billion. So if you adjust that for inflation, it's $280 billion. This is nearly double the adjusted Apollo budget for this Stargate project, which is, that's massive. And I guess it really shows, how much focus is being put on this industry and the importance of it. I mean, just some other quick numbers here, like the International Space Station, 150 billion. So, this is over 3 times the cost of the International Space Station, which is, that's pretty massive, right?
Definitely. Well, compared to all these other initiatives that the government and different countries have undertaken together, it's really showing, I think, the importance of investment in AI across all these different areas and how important it is to computing and beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, like this actually ties into a question that we had from the community, which is how are we differentiating ourselves from other blockchain infrastructure providers? Obviously, you've touched before on the ZKML. The need for AI systems to be verifiable and transparent. It's really a massive signal, isn't it? Like that this seems to be at the center of everything happening right now, and the amount of money and the scale at which the importance has been put behind trusting these systems. Obviously there's a lot of infrastructure that they're going to be building physically as well to go along with this. But, really I feel like that signal, it mirrors everything that we're doing at Polyhedra, like to build these decentralized and scalable ecosystems that have trust and verifiability at the base. So it's pretty cool. Like, it's pretty cool that this has come and happened right now. And it's, everything that we're working on right now as well, even with the boot camp and such. So yeah, it's definitely exciting times.
Yeah, definitely. I think with every AI project that we see, whether it's internal to kind of the Web3 and blockchain environment or larger and external like this, we're seeing both an investment in the hardware component as well as the software component. And, in the software side, it really comes down to a lot of people right now having doubts about AI, whether that's AI taking jobs or not knowing about the privacy and security of the systems that they're using. So I think that accountability in these AI systems is really no longer an optional thing, but it's very much central and core to the future of how AI is used in the world more broadly. So at Polyhedra, it is kind of one of the main things we're focusing on right now, especially with our ZKML, which is ensuring that these AI systems are verifiable and transparent in as many ways as possible, without sacrificing privacy of individual users.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you just touched on it perfectly there, Morgan. Ethical AI isn't just a buzzword. It's definitely a competitive advantage. And, consumers and businesses definitely gravitating towards solutions that they can trust. So for startups, if startups that build trust first products, they're the ones that are going to thrive. So, that's obviously really exciting for us and everything happening at the bootcamp, and of course, EXP Chain. Just a lot of amazing signals in the industry, and just for us as a whole. I feel like every day I wake up and I read the news and I'm like, man, I feel like I'm living in Star Trek. Like these things are moving so quickly, and I don't think that we're very far off. But I guess moving away from these government initiatives and these the Stargate project, I guess the other huge bombshell that was dropped this week was obviously the DeepSeek announcement.
Mm-hmm.
This has definitely taken the AI world by storm. It being an open source model, DeepSeek R1, taking on their rivals and major players like OpenAI, while being open source, so remaining very accessible for developers and researchers worldwide. I was actually looking at the benchmarks of R1 versus GPT-01, and it's pretty incredible to see what they've done. And obviously the fact that it's open source, to me that's another signal, right? Like it's kind of at the opposite end of the spectrum, don't you think? As the Stargate projects, you've got this huge government initiative, all this money, and all this, the government partnered with private industry, which is obviously very important, pouring all this money into this massive project. And then you have, DeepSeek coming out, and this just opens the playing field for developers developing on open source. Obviously, another great signal and another brilliant thing, in my opinion, for EXP Chain and developers wanting to build these secure systems. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. I think you really hit the nail on the head here. It's really kind of these two different approaches, right? In one way, we see that startups and these smaller companies, especially open source, can be nimble and agile, right? Versus on the other hand, of course, if you have a large government initiative with some of these top corporations that have a lot of funding, you can really pour resources into development. And both are two different ways of approaching innovation and kind of the same problem. And I think we often see them kind of racing one another like this, right? You'll have an innovation here and then one will supersede the other. And right now with what we're seeing with DeepSeek, I do think part of that is reflective in the open source approach. That really is something that we discuss in the blockchain world a lot. The fact that open source frameworks really democratize access to development, whether it's AI development or otherwise, right? So that allows these smaller and more agile teams to build these products kind of on tighter budgets and a little bit more of a bootstrapping with their own proprietary internal systems. So I think that on one hand, of course, this encourages competition, right? Which is great in the market because it always encourages the kind of best player or solution to win. But it also makes sure that, from an open source perspective, there is access for other researchers and developers to use the tech that is the best for their own endeavors, whatever those may be.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. It definitely opens the field, I guess, for just more global collaboration, and innovation. I'm pretty excited to see how people utilize that. Obviously, we've got a lot of exciting things being built our end as well. But yeah, just looking at that kind of polarity in those two different massive bombshells that were dropped this week, it's really, really interesting. And again, they're both signaling to the same thing. Like, you know, that one, there's a massive investment being poured into the need for security and verifiability in these systems, you know, and these are, you know, it's something that I know that, you know, the founders and our leaders here at Polyhedra have been saying for a very, very long time. And it seems like it's starting to now become super, super relevant and visceral to, you know, not only governments, but then with these huge announcements in the open source space, it's like, well, you know, it becomes even more visceral. Like, hey guys, like we need to really get on top of this because it's happening. You know, the cat's out of the bag, and we need to make sure that these systems are safe. And you know, anyone that wants to build, and you know, there's going to be some you know, billion-dollar startups you know, happening everywhere, I believe. And it's just like the only way you can do that is really by making sure that it's safe and it's verifiable. Otherwise, it's kind of a sink or swim scenario, I think. Like, I think that a lot of people and consumers or businesses will be looking at this and saying, well, if it's not verifiable, then it doesn't have any legs to stand on in the future because things are going to be moving so quickly. But that does, it definitely leads on to another question that I want to outline here from one of our community, which is, how can, let me just find it here. How can verifiable AI agents impact user trust and overall adoption?
You know, that's a great question.
Sorry, one second. I actually had another one here that I wanted to answer first, which was, how does Polyhedra plan to differentiate itself? Have we already touched that one? Sorry, that was the question. We have so many questions again from
Too
the
many.
community.
That's a good problem.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, how can verifiable AI agents impact user trust and overall adoption?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, these agents, you know, really can help by making decisions that are provably fair and unbiased, right? Which up until now has been hard to prove, right? And it's part of the reason there's so much doubt and what we call or hear misinformation in online forums, right? So this kind of ability of these verifiable AI agents to provide information that can be checked and confirmed is really critical in high stakes industries. Like you think of healthcare, you think of finance and governance, where we want to make sure that anything in this line is accurate and is represented correctly. So there's definitely a lot of power there, and also a lot of responsibility in terms of making sure we're doing it right, which is one of the things that our leaders and founders have been most passionate about.
Absolutely, yeah. And obviously AI agents is one of the other big buzzwords of the moment. Like there's a lot happening there. I've been consuming a lot of content in this space, and it's very, very fascinating. Obviously, you know, like in a broader sense on EXP chain, you know, we're already seeing applications in like fair gaming, adaptive reward systems, transparent marketplaces, just based on the few shows that we've done in the last week, let alone more that we're going to be announcing. And, you know, I think you know better than anyone, Morgan, just how many partnerships we have going on right now. And I think, you know, there was already a lot of work going on, especially on the BD side and on your side, you know, last year. And I feel like with these announcements, it's snowballed. It's crazy. Like there's a lot of interest, and it makes sense, you know, because people are kind of starting to see. I think the broader market is really seeing like, wow, well, wait up. Like, you know, this is super fun. Like all of this AI, it's super, super fun. But then it's like, wait, what are the implications of this? So it's really cool to see. But I would really like to dive more into the AI agents because it's something that really excites me. And, you know, it is reshaping industries. And, you know, their presence is definitely growing in decentralized ecosystems as well. Like I said, you know, it does feel like I wake up and I'm living in Star Trek sometimes, you know, because it's like these futuristic concepts, suddenly they're here and they're operating. Obviously, OpenAI had their big announcement with Operator, which is super cool. I've actually been playing with a few of these models over the last few weeks that I've found and been passed over by a few of my colleagues and friends. So yeah, it's it's really, really fascinating. You know, they're from like, you know, obviously autonomous decision making, personalized customer experiences, like they're evolving so rapidly. I mean, I even when I was first playing with one of these agents, I've got like an email, obviously coming from the marketing background. I've got an specific email that I use to sign up. Like, you know, I'll see maybe it's a really cool call to action, or it's a really cool like email sequence, and I'll be like, oh, you know what, I'll sign up to that because this is really great for me to watch. But you know, I've been doing this for over a decade. You know, so obviously that email has about 50,000 unread emails sitting in there. So I asked one of these agents, I'm like, can you just go through like here's like 3 or 4 you know, like accounts that I see as really valuable. Can you just go through and start cleaning them up for me? Like I asked it to delete 1,000 emails, and it did it. Like I just left it there to run. So like just that one of those tiny use cases, you know. But I can only imagine like what people are going to be using AI agents for, and what's really going to come next.
Yeah, I'm going to need to get the name of that agent from you, because I think I need to clear out my inbox as well. But yeah, it is. I mean, this is truly amazing, you know, and I think we've seen too, you know, in such a short amount of time, a lot of change going on in terms of how these different agents are being applied. You know, we went from at the beginning, it just being a bunch of Twitter reply guy agents, right? Or kind of small little in-browser kind of easier tasks. And I don't say easier because they're easy. It's still impressive to make any of these, you know, but comparatively less complex tasks, to now only a few months later, you know, getting much more kind of intricate types of actions that these agents can take on your behalf. And again, we're seeing that in both Web 2 and Web 3 worlds for different use cases. I think the other thing to keep in mind, though, is as they grow in this power and complexity, the challenges of maintaining transparency, accountability, scale, some of the things that we were talking about earlier, that becomes even more critical and even more difficult, right? So this is where technologies like ZKML really can step in to provide solutions at scale.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I think right now, like, you know, like I was watching the demo with Operator, and, you know, a lot of it's like, oh, like, can you order me some food? Or can you buy me tickets, et cetera, et cetera? Can you book me, you know, whatever that is. But obviously there's a lot more application that you could put these agents to work on. And when you're talking about, for example, you know, mirroring systems for a business. If you have a business and it's like, hey, look, you know, I want to create a digital twin of your business, and we're going to run scenarios. We're going to run 1 million scenarios, whether that's on your logistics, whether that's on, you know, your infrastructure, whatever that is. You know, a lot of that, and especially depending on the vertical, but most of that really is it's IP, and there's obviously beyond that, you know, there's regulatory restrictions around sharing that stuff, because it's personal information of your employees or logistics, and one, people may not want to share that, or two, they legally can't. So putting that into black box systems, you know, could be a huge hurdle for businesses to have to face. And you know, I think that's where, yeah, obviously ZKML steps in to provide solutions to that, which is really cool. And again, all of the signals are there. But yeah, like you said, Morgan, like the stakes are super high, especially in in healthcare, finance. I know that these are two that we point to a lot, but it's true. Like, it's the stakes are super high in those industries, and it is a very like visceral issue that needs to be addressed. And obviously, we don't want to see, you know, nobody wants to see there be massive, like, we don't want a problem that we have to solve. Like, I think this is the ethos, you know, of the founders, is like, let's solve the problems before they become a problem, because these are going to be huge problems if not handled correctly. So yeah, super.
Yeah, definitely.
Super cool.
I think that's also, like, we say finance and healthcare a lot because they're great examples of two industries that warrant the most protection in terms of privacy, right? But I think the other reason is, if you think of the quantity of data itself, right? How many transactions go on per second, you know, through Visa, for example, or through SWIFT, which is an international payment system. Or if you think about A couple years back, United Healthcare had a huge expose where a lot of information from their users got leaked, millions and millions of users' information, including social security numbers and things like that, right? Those are the types of things that we're trying to prevent. And like you said, up until now, it's really been hard because the default, for example, cybersecurity framework is just trying to kind of patch after the most recent, break or whatever. So in the sense that, we've been acting almost defensively for many years in terms of approaching these types of leaks or concerns instead of offensively. And I think now we're at a time where we actually have technology that might enable us to offensively prevent some of these types of breaches or privacy concerns in new ways.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's interesting, like even the effects that it's going to have on huge industries like SaaS, for example, because I heard an analogy, and it's actually spot on, because essentially like the ultimate API is like a human interface. Like everything's been built for humans. Our whole world's been built for humans. And I mean, this is another topic. Maybe we could dive into this on the next show, but like all the robotics stuff that's going on. And there's a reason why, like, it's not just for aesthetics that these big, Teslas and like they're generating these robots. They make them the same scale as human, because the whole world is built for humans. Like, doorknobs, like, doors, like whatever it is built for us. So it makes sense to have it at that scale. But, the human interface being like the API, it's like, it's the ultimate API, because you can use any piece of technology was made for humans to use. So if you can generate, a technology like AI agents that can interface with technology in the same ways that humans do, like, you can get around the need for a lot of APIs. So it's almost like for businesses, there will be this AI, agentic layer on top of all of these systems as well. Not to say that they're going to go away, because they're very, very useful, as you and I know, Morgan. We use them every day, and they're very, very, very awesome tools. There's a lot of them out there, but there will be this like agent layer sitting on top of it that's just really going to streamline everything and make everyone more productive. So that is super, super exciting, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think the other thing that comes up with that, too, is obviously the compute aspect, because it's no secret that a lot of AI resources just take so much more compute power servers than what we've used in the past. And so I think the question also there comes down to, in addition to a lot of the accountability, responsibility, transparency argument we've been talking about, there's additionally the question of scalability and maintaining, the computational demands that these agents and LLMs require, especially in decentralized networks like the ones that we prioritize here at Polyhedra. And we have some tech that can really work to address that. But I think in terms of, bringing it at scale, it's going to take some time for companies across the board and projects across the board to really be able to implement that effectively, so we're not just draining resources, for using AI for tasks that AI doesn't need to be used for, et cetera.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That makes a lot of sense. And, as we had a show recently with Sam and TC, and one of the community members had asked, like, what is, like, does every like AI system or agent need to be built with verifiability, like, or can some of them not be? And it was funny because to see TC's response. Obviously, he's just like, well, why wouldn't you, when we can do it so cheap, and you've got trust built into the framework, like. So it's kind of like, of course, like, if you can make something secure, it's like, oh, I'm going to build a house, but maybe I won't put a lock on it. It's just like, it's super cheap though. And it's going to save, it's going to protect you so much. Like, why not do it? Like, but like, you can, if you want, but if somebody comes to buy the house, it's probably going to be, or use your, if you have an Airbnb, it's like, maybe put a lock on the door, just to keep things safe.
Yeah. The lock is a
very,
great
very
analogy.
Cool. Yeah. So another thing that I want to move on to, and it was one of the questions from the community. So I was super, super stoked that we got one of these questions, something that I am pretty passionate about and I've been following for a long time, and it is very, very cool. So obviously AI is changing the game, and AI agents are changing the game. But let's talk about the next frontier of computing. So quantum computing and its implications. So Google recently unveiled, obviously, its new quantum chip Willow, and this marks a significant step forward in error correction and scalability, and brings us far closer to realizing practical quantum applications, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, Willow is next level for sure, is the least I can say. But quantum computing really, promises, I think, to revolutionize fields like cryptography and AI. So a lot of the space that we're operating in, even things like supply chain logistics, are going to be massively improved by those applications. But it also raises some concerns because quantum does provide some threats. Blockchain is secure in many ways, but it could potentially undermine some of the current cryptographic protocols that are in use.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like Zhenfei had touched on this as well, like the pre-quantum and post-quantum cryptography, and again, like just the team looking down the track and kind of being one step ahead of what's happening in the industry. Like they were already on top of this before any of these announcements with Willow. But how fascinating, right? Like the quantum computing chip, and reading about how it's essentially obviously superposition, but then breaking down information across the multiverse. I'm going to bring it back to the Star Trek thing again, but it's like wow, like how, like what world are we living in? Like we're literally living in the future, and this is crazy to see, because I've been following the quantum computing thing for a while, and these huge coolers and the systems they're using, they're bringing that down, and the scale at which that's going to come along. But it does, and you touched on some really, really great points there, because it does raise some concerns. And this actually ties straight into a question from one of our community, which is, what steps is Polyhedra taking to prepare for quantum computing challenges? And I guess it's EXP chain. That's what we've it's like,
Yeah,
and I think go for it.
Oh no, I was just going to say we've definitely poured a lot of our heart and soul into EXP chain over the past year plus, and I think for anyone who hasn't actually read the light paper on EXP chain, you should definitely do so if you're curious, because we kind of get in there into more depth in terms of like ZKML and our vision for the future as well. But on that note, we're really actively researching quantum resistant ZKML and what that might look like in order to future-proof our infrastructure and make sure that we're not waiting for the threats to come, but we're preparing now to anticipate them, right? Something like Willow, which really, is paving the way in terms of improving error correction and qubit stability. It's obviously incredibly promising and helpful for, I think, future scalable quantum applications. And our job is to now take a lot of what we've been working on and try to kind of bring a quantum resistant lens to it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we've talked about before, Morgan, we need Zhenfei to come on and just give us a whole session on quantum resistance. And like, I love hearing from these guys, like obviously TC and Zhenfei. It's like, they're just so ahead of and sometimes it's mind boggling to just hear some of like, what they're looking at, and how they're solving these problems like in real time. And it's just like, if I feel like I'm living in the future, you guys are way out in front. Like, oh my gosh. But very, very cool. Obviously, it's going to disrupt, every industry, and like you said, the immediate impact, obviously, in cryptography and data security. I think from startups, for startups and developers, it is the same way with like AI, trust and verifiability. It's obviously important that startups and developers be thinking about quantum resilient solutions now. Mm-hmm. Like, again, it's one of those things. It's like, who would have thought 5 years ago that we would be in the position that we are now? And it's like, well, what's going to be happening in the next year, 2 years, 3 years on the quantum front? So any startups, or developers, if they really take that into account, then it's like, okay, there are some solutions out there to not have to be valuable in the future, and these are solutions we have right now. So that's pretty crazy. Obviously, yeah, again, would love the guys to do more of a deep dive on that. I'm sure everyone would really love that. And obviously, yeah, a lot of disruption going to happen with that. It's going to be interesting actually seeing AI, blockchain coupled with quantum. It's going to be like, what is
double whammy?
what's
Yeah.
gonna yeah. What's gonna happen there? I kind of like, I don't think we can even imagine, but I feel like getting a human on Mars will be obviously a massive significant milestone, but I think that we're gonna be leapfrogging from that point over the next few years,
Right. Yeah, that may have even more impact than having a person on Mars, having the quantum integrating that tech into blockchain. So
maybe we shoot over to another galaxy or something, who knows.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very cool. So I'd like to bring it back. Let's bring it back to the Polyhedra ecosystem, like from outer space back in a little bit, and how we're driving innovation and engagement. Maybe we'll talk a little bit. I know there's been a whole bunch of announcements and stuff coming out of the Explore Expander Bootcamp. It's definitely been a movement to empower developers to build decentralized applications that are leveraging ZKML and ZK Bridge, and on all of these fronts, on the AI level, on the quantum level, on the agent level. This has been a really, really cool boot camp and training and educational piece for these developers. I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, no, it's a super exciting time. And like you were kind of touching on when we were just talking about AI and quantum, one of the things that's really important to us at Polyhedra is upskilling and educating like our developer users as well, making sure that they have the frameworks and the skills to succeed, to use our tech, and also, tech beyond ours. So this Explore Expander Bootcamp is really part of our effort to equip developers with those skills and tools that they need to tackle real world challenges using blockchain tech and using our tech. Our hope is that, the more developers are comfortable with these sorts of approaches, we can see more innovation and collaboration as well in the community and beyond. So it's really this kind of like flywheel of self-supporting education and improvement, right? So the bootcamp is really going to be hands-on experience with ZKML and ZK Bridge, teaching devs how to incorporate our tech into what they're currently building and working on. And the hope is that it'll really foster kind of a global community of these blockchain innovators and developers.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. Obviously we've had a whole bunch of questions from the community about the bootcamp. If you guys want to see, there's obviously been some big hitters and some really cool people that have been involved with the bootcamp. You can jump onto our X and you can see some of those. We had one today from Ryan Cow from WorldCoin. I'll just read this out for you guys. So ZKML will power the AI applications of tomorrow, enabling private model inference, secure model sharing, private data training, verifiable data integrity, and more, which I think really hits the nail on the head with that. And obviously such an exciting initiative. Again, getting back to like fostering a global community of blockchain innovators. It's initiatives like this that really drive that forward. And, our team, again, our leadership team have been kind of pointing that out, like, hey, there's such a massive opportunity here. And if you're a developer, like, look, it's, this is where the future is, and this is where everything's happening. And I think a lot of people and a lot of developers have obviously seen that signal and just been like, you're right. And that's why it's obviously been such a successful bootcamp so far.
For sure.
In addition to, I guess, like the creativity that we see in our community and in the development community and in our industry at large, it's really, really cool to see the creativity that's coming out of these sessions. And I think it's definitely proof that if you provide the right tools, the right support, people can build things that are truly transformative, and really human ingenuity is really uncapped.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite things when I go to conferences quite a lot with Polyhedra, as I work on business development. And one of my favorite things is always running into independent devs, or devs will come up to our booth or our speeches. We're having a keynote or a panel and talk about their use of our products to me, talk about how they're bringing it to life, ask questions, so it's definitely exciting to see how smart and creative folks are with the way that they utilize technology.
Yeah, it's very, 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 very cool. I'm just trying to, Morgan, I've just been trying to get onto, I'm having some issues with my Discord. I don't know if there's a issue with my account but we did want to try and talk to the community a little bit. We did only have a few more minutes. We know we've both got very busy days, and you've had an extremely busy day today, Morgan.
Never too busy to talk to our community if it works.
Yeah,
but yeah, mine's also being weird.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see what's going on there. We have obviously jumped into a lot of these questions, and thank you so much for the community as well for letting us dive into some of these topics. I was so stoked. Obviously, over the last few weeks that we've been doing the show, there's been questions coming in hard and fast, and it's been so much for me to even try and sift through. But I have seen all of them, guys, and I really, really appreciate it. And I did cherry pick a few out today because it was stuff that I obviously was super exciting and things that were happening in the industry. And it's so cool to see that you guys are so engaged with that as well. I think unfortunately our Discord is not working properly, at least on my phone, which is a little bit annoying, but we would have loved to have gotten some of your feedback and engage with you real time, but we will be doing this again. So guys, keep an eye out and keep the creativity and the questions coming, because you guys are so on top of all this stuff that's happening, and we love hearing the opinions. Obviously not just about all the amazing stuff that's happening at Polyhedra, but in the industry as a whole, and just how much it kind of builds on what we're doing as well. So it's definitely been a very, very exciting few weeks. And I think that's really resonating within our community. And it's definitely, I can tell you, resonating with the team at Polyhedra. We're feeling the excitement. This has been a huge, huge kickoff to 2025.
Yeah, definitely. And let's just keep the conversation going. We're always keen to hear more, whether it's on Discord or otherwise. We love hearing from the community and kind of having that discourse and feedback with you guys. So yeah, feel free to keep reaching out, and hopefully next time we'll have a Discord that's not being difficult for us.
Absolutely, yeah. And we can engage with you guys in real time. Maybe we'll even have some of the community join us. That would be super, super cool. Mm-hmm. All right, Morgan, man, we've gone from we started on the Stargate project. I've kind of lost the flow of what happened, but we went through quantum computing, AI agents. Very much. I mean, how technology is evolving to create a more connected and transparent world, which is what we're all about. Love seeing this future unfold right in front of our eyes as well. It's a very, very exciting time. So yeah, and again, thank you to everyone who sent in questions. Your engagement definitely drives these discussions, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you all on this journey with us. So let's stay curious and keep staying involved. And maybe we'll do more of these kind of news conversation AMAs on other topics as well. I know there's a lot of news this week, but we can definitely keep it going if people like it. So.
Absolutely, yeah. Next up, Morgan, robotics. We'll be talking about quantum integration with robotics. We'll see what happens, but definitely, who knows what's going to happen over the next few weeks. And guys, keep an eye out of all the announcements that are coming from Polyhedra as well. There's a whole lot going on, and like I said, it's snowballing with all of our partnerships and everything happening at the boot camp. There's just so much going on. All things EXP chain, all the signals pointing to how this is just. It feels like we're at the start of, it feels like the start of the Apollo program, although, where it feels like it's obviously even bigger. So super cool. And yeah, like Morgan said, stay curious, guys. And until next time, thanks so much for joining us. Bye.